A brand new landscape means some very interesting early tournament results. Make sure you guys smash the ever-living crap out of that subscribe button, and please do pick up our new Field Center bundle for the Age of Overlord girls. I'll leave a link down below so you can grab yours today. So what in the world is happening out here for the new Next Play Monthly? Now, OCG just got their new list. These are the first tournament results that we are going to see on this data, and Purely is the most represented deck. I am not all that surprised, honestly. The deck is still a massive monster. It's actually a pain in the butt, too. I'm not really surprised by the consistent grind that this deck does tend to put on the meta. And then we have some Pendulum Magicians over here, and we have Ohime and Friends. Kind of love Battle Phase Reflection deck. We also have Rescue Ace, also Diabell Star and Friends. Kind of interesting to see a little bit of a dial back on that, though. I see that we have two Exosister, two Eldritch. To be fair, Eldritch is kind of the old reliable that you dust off and you're like, hey, you know, I don't know what to play for week one, but you know what? Nor does everybody else. We can go play some Eldritch. It's actually kind of cool. We had two Runic, we had two Vanquish Soul, two Fallen of Albas. So those are all of your 2-ofs. Now everything else you're going to see here is going to be some sort of 1-of pile. So I see that we have Hero, Zefra. That was an interesting little pile to see. It did make top 8, and we do have the list. We have Spiral. Spiral actually did well. It looks like Dark World, Fire, Salamangrate, N-Pen and Friends, Unchained, Labyrinth, Dragon Link, Ninja, Centurion, and a Horus pile as well. But it's nice to see the generalized representation of how things are kind of sitting up in the OCG format, at least for now. Remember, this is all participation data, and when you're looking at the whole, this is what everybody brought. I mean, the 03, your 05 is going to be sitting in here as well. But once again, it's a different meta. It's a different snapshot as to what's going on. And I think it's kind of nice to see, you know, what early ideas that we're seeing, at least pre-Phantom Nightmare out here. Now, our top 8. Oh boy. We had two Purely walking into this top cut, and I'm not all that surprised, honestly. Purely has kind of just been one of those decks that has continued to be a monster. The massive draw combos that you can tend to do, well, the OCG really can't do that, but the consistent big monster, you know, leaping into a monster your opponent really can't out or is meant to multi-out things, can be a problem for a lot of decks. Now, the rest of this pie chart is where I think I find things to be very interesting. We still have one Runic in the top cut. Now, to be honest with you, Runic has pretty much continued to be an annoyance in the OCG, and it did top 4. I'm not all that surprised. Now, Zefra, that's not something that you tend to see all that much. Now, this is Zefra with the Super Heavy Samurai package. So you're going to be using this as fodder for as many big synchro monsters as you can possibly throw at your opponent to try to capitalize and actually, you know, make big monster go burr. I see that we also have Pendulum Magician good stuff over here on the side as well. Salamangrate managed to actually win this event. That's not something that I actually thought I would be saying today. Salad's not exactly been one of the most optimal carriers of the meta. And then we had N-Pen and Friends up here as well. Now you're probably like, Robbie, why are there only 7 decks here? These were pretty much your X1s via the cutoff, and then, you know, you proceed to do most of the playoff stuff from there. So that's how Next Play does its thing. Let's pass on over to those top deck lists. Winning our event here was Salamangrate, and yes, that is Kaiser Coliseum down there in the side deck. Something you don't tend to see a lot of, actually, in the OCG, even though the card is unrestricted. It does kind of prove that, you know, Salad's setting up this huge board, something that your opponent can't really deal with. I mean, it's still full Salad combo. Also, Roar and Rage backing up a Kaiser. Really, really cute. Little innovation lines. I mean, still playing the one crosshair. You're kind of forced to with the double Call by the Grape. Double Will to revive. Looking at also the triple Salamangrate Fire, you need to make sure that you can put those monsters on the field and be able to capitalize on them and do your thing. Also, putting up an SP Little Knight interruption is now something a little bit extra that this deck gets to do. Shout out to Red Reboot too, something that the OCG really does get to enjoy out here. But this list honestly looks pretty standard for what I would expect to see out of the OCG metagame, so kind of cool to see. Next up is Purely. And I'm going to be completely honest with you here. There's not a lot of crazy things that the OCG Purely deck has to deal with. They have 2 hits on the deck, which honestly have really hurt a little bit of the consistency of the deck. They've tried to slow down the deck, but the OCG build of this versus the TCG is they're just using the Purely Leaps to capitalize and set up the big cats for the interruptions. You do notice down in the side deck that we do see Unending Nightmare down there as well. That's got to be a big kick you for seeing something like Runic, because you get that against Runic, their field spell is going to get shut off because you're just going to infinitely burn through, and it will get actually yeeted. And also, the summon limit tech choice, which has become one of the best things that a Purely player can do. Once a Purely deck sets up, you sit behind the summon limit, your opponent just stares at you and goes, oh, well, that's actually fan-frickin-tastic. Outside of that, not a lot of crazy innovation lines that you get with this deck. Now, we also do have Runic back here. Whew, 1 skill drain. The fact that the OCG even has that card locked up at a crazy number is kind of cool. I do see that we are playing triple Maxi and triple Mono Awano, so we are relying on Maxi to get us that draw power, and yes, we also have to rely on card demise to set us up. We are also only playing 1 copy of Fountain, which is just, once again, unfortunate that the OCG ban list has had to restrict that. But okay, we're also playing 1 Doomsday Star, 1 Baguski, and we are playing an SP Little Knight down there. So on the off chance that, you do see the Amano, and you do see, a Runic spell, which you should, you'll be able to make the SP Little Knight and start interrupting your opponent. I do see that we are citing the borders as well for the pressure on the opponent, and yes, that is Dimension Shifter down there in the side deck, something that this deck has become very, very famous and notorious for getting the chance to actually play on the side as well. 4th place back here is another Purely deck, and once again, I'm going to tell you the same things I said earlier. This deck doesn't get a lot of crazy innovation lines. With Princess Sprite, you see the summon limits, and you once again see those Unending Nightmares down there in the side deck, actually giving this deck the little bit of the extra push to kind of do its thing. But this proves how consistent this deck can be. If it locked down a 2nd and a 4th place finish, only losing to Salamangreat, and I mean, to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure Salad had to work its butt off for this matchup. It's definitely not going to be a good one. It's definitely something that Salad has to go first for in order to try to put up some sort of resistance. So your top 4 for this event, massively stacked. All right, some of the best meta contenders that you really want to see out here, at least for how things are going. But don't worry, I did get lucky, and I did find the Zefra list out here for this event. And yes, we are using the Symphonic Warrior package in here, along with the Super Heavy Samurai scales. Honestly, the Super Heavy Samurai scales as a universal system is amazing, because you can also do some Zefra shenanigans with this as well. I think this is the first time that I've seen the Zefra package actually getting used like this. It's not really something I've seen. So you've got Symphonics that are spamming the field, doing the stupid things that they want to do. Also, Aurora Dawn little shenanigans that you can access with that. The Zefra package sets up scales and loads up the extra deck, and then the Super Heavy Samurai scales also set up a universal scale system. So effectively, you're doing everything that you want to do, plus the Zefra cards give you, protection, and I mean, technically, a form of interruption as well. So that's something definitely worth noting here. And I also saw the Spiral list. Yeah, must be nice to get the chance to play triple copies of the Master Plan. This build is only playing 2, and we do see that the new Spiral monster is seeing a little bit of play in this list too. Now, if the TCG got the chance to play an expansive, crazy build like this, you can bet your butt that other people would be very happy to explore the options for this deck. But this is what we're looking at right now, at least in terms of how you could get the chance to play this deck. Must be nice. So what do you guys think about the breakdown for next play's event? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. I always love getting a chance to kind of look at these and see how things are going. And with 2 new formats, you know, blooming next to each other, it's going to be very interesting. You guys have a good rest of your day, all right? Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.